Welcome to Talking with Dave. Here's Dave.
Hey, how we doing out there? I hope you're great. I am swell, top shelf even. Oh, I've been doing some reflecting lately, and I've been around some people who have they struggle with their temper, and I'm not, I consider myself an easygoing guy. I think most people know that. I get told more often than not, I don't know how you stayed so calm, or I don't know how you handle that. I don't know, if different people, they'll rub me the wrong way, and I'll, I can usually handle that in a mature, calm manner. Not always. I got my references. I know I've worked with people in the past where they know certain things gets to me, and when they see I start to rev up a little bit, they get all uncomfortable, very nervous. My kids know. My wife, of course, knows, and my wife sometimes she'll poke the bear. But I want to talk today about that temper. Those people that it's part of their personality. Or those people that it's all their personality. I mean, in history, you can look at some historically angry, mad people that's known for their explosive temper. I looked it up. And, the crazy thing is, I look it up. I put historical figures that are known for explosive tempers. It was all men. Some of the most fiery people I know are women. My mom was kind and understanding, but when you got her mad, and I'm talking pissed, you didn't want to be around her. Everybody knew it. But some of the people that came up, Alexander the Great, he killed a close friend. They got drunk and he just killed him, made him mad. He killed him. Boy, that's kind of rough. Genghis Khan, I mean, you he has to have a temper. He was often quick to anger and would act out, and it was brutal, violent. Henry the Eighth was known. My goodness, he'd kill his wife. How many wives did he kill? Cut their heads off. They displeased him. That's rough. Napoleon, little guy syndrome. He would go crazy over whether it's people on his side or not, just in fits. He was known for throwing things. Andrew Jackson, president. Goodness, one of the founding fathers, I guess you could say. He would challenge people to a duel. He killed a man over an insult, challenged to a duel. Back then, can you imagine that nowadays? That is crazy, but the explosive temper and apparently a very good shot. But you look at it, these people were known for their fiery tempers, but they were very successful. And you can argue with their ways, but they came up as historical figures, so they had to have some degree of success, right? But it was all men. I could dig deeper and find women, but I'm not looking for trouble here. What, do you think I'm crazy? But men and women, they have different triggers. And, I believe in triggers. I believe in using triggers for good, though. When this happens, respond this way. Be prepared. Do that type of thing. The trigger I'm talking about here, it's that ever-present difference in men and women. Men, their temper is triggered if they're disrespected. I get that. They very high value on respect, whether it's in a professional setting or relationships. If you were to just dismiss them, not take them seriously, or definitely if you insult them or belittle them. One thing that it gets me, and people who know me know this, but don't make fun of me. I can be the butt of a joke, but don't make fun of me or laugh at me in a belittling way. That will get my temper going. I think another thing with men have a control thing. And if they not that they're a control freak necessarily, but if they feel powerless in a situation, it could be at work, could be financial struggles, it could be in a relationship. A lot, relationships don't make sense a lot of times, and they're powerless. But that can lead to things that will lead to anger or a temper. That frustration or anxiety or whatever, that can lead to something that will trigger their temper in men. Also, if things aren't going, it's not a control thing, but if things aren't going as they had planned, whether it's a career or personal goals or a trip, a daily routine, traffic, slowing me down, I'm going to be late. Men will become irritated by that quicker than women, for sure. I hate being late. And the difference in, and I'm not just talking about moodiness, I'm talking about a temper. The difference in everything going well and everything being horrible can be something as a plan, something not going to plan, and being late. 15 minutes early, that's great. 15 minutes early is on time, by the way, in the O'Connor household. Another thing that triggers that is that, it's bottled up stress. You kick the can down the road, you don't take care of it, and all of a sudden, boom, at some point, that valve is going to pop. And, suppressing your emotions, that's, of course, it's gonna come out at some point. And usually, unfortunately, you bottle up the emotions on big things, and something small will trigger it, and boom, the explosion. And then another thing is, and this is seriously a man thing. It's a testosterone thing when their authority is challenged or undermined, or someone is not loyal. You don't even have to be in a leadership role of this. It's just a man has certain feelings of authority and status that's how they identify themselves. Men, it's around work and jobs and being busy a lot of times. And if anything challenges that or is a threat to that, that can lead to anger and a temper. Oh, a temper. Now, women, it's different. It's just as fiery. And I'm telling you, I talk a lot about emotion. I've got one coming up on the difference in emotion and passion. I'm very passionate about that, but I'm not going to get emotional. Okay. But women, when I talk about emotion and drama, I talk about drama a lot. That's not what I'm talking about here. All those things can lead to a temper, but the things that trigger a woman's temper are more about not being heard, or not having their opinion validated. That can cause them to be, or being dismissed too, and in a way like a man, but not just because they're a woman, but with their emotions and their feelings. They need to be validated. They need to be heard. I think that's what hurts them so bad when we appear to not be listening or something. I can't remember what she was talking about, but being unheard or invalidated. Woo! I had a lot of fuse. And then unfair treatment. I think men can handle that a little bit better because of our machismo or whatever. We don't want to, we see this whining or complaining to say something's unfair. I think that's much more prevalent in women if they feel like they're being taken advantage of. And I'm not, that could be the workplace or relationships or society or they're standing at a HOA meeting or in church or wherever. If they're not treated what they considered fairly, boom, that'd kick up a temper. And then this is a big one, the emotional betrayal. Catfights will come out over, trust issues, telling somebody something in confidence, someone being dishonest with them, any of that. And I'm, relationships, of course, but within their peer groups as well. You got gossipers. You got something happening there with some betrayal among friends. Oh, I've seen it. I mean, come on. I got a mom, 2 sisters, a wife, and a daughter. I have seen this happen, and oh, it builds up and boom. God help us all. And then I think when a woman gets overwhelmed, man too. I mean, I'm not hacking on women. I just went over 5 things with. I can feel some of you getting upset. But if you're overwhelmed with some responsibilities or something's going on, I don't like multitasking, but women are better at multitasking than men. However, when it snowballs on you, and then something else gets piled on that, and you got everything under control, and then you're about to leave, and all of a sudden, the kid walks in with covered in mud with a muddy dog that shakes, and all day you've worked on that kitchen. Now it's boom, there you go. And then I think women, I think they take personal criticism a little harder. Maybe men should take it more seriously, but I think women take negative comments a little harder. And by that I mean, I'm smart enough not to make negative comments about my wife's appearance. Yeah, I mean, there's a learning curve there, guys. But just the slightest thing, maybe, and it could be sins of omission there. They got a new dress, they got their hair done, and you don't notice. That is almost a criticism. It's a touchy thing. I mean, we're talking about splitting hairs here. But also, if it's something that they really love, one of my rules is it's better to love something I hate than to hate something I love. And if they love this new dress, or they love their outfit, or they really feel like this is great, and if you throw a criticism out there or not a compliment, that can trigger stuff, or question some of their choices, or if they feel they're trying to prove their ability, and you throw just a casual comment out that's not positive, that can trigger it because they take it more personally. Most guys are just, I don't care. No big deal. Women take it more personally. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but that's the difference. Everybody is a little bit different. And I hate to put people in groups like that, but I do believe if we understand some of the triggers, then first of all, we can own that as a man or a woman, but also we can understand that and try not to trigger so much. And, some people are mean. They want to trigger it. I know people. Oh, I know so many people that they just dig and pick, and then finally, got them. And but we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. And when we're at our best, we don't. Can't we all just get along? So the different kinds of temper. This is, I consider myself easygoing. Some people in certain situations. Now, you know my past a little bit. I've had to do rough things, man. I've had to make business decisions that change people's lives. I didn't really do it in anger. The people who have seen me angry, they're few and far between, honestly. But let's talk about the different kinds of anger. So one would be an explosive anger, just a sudden, intense rage. Maybe you almost lose control. It's aggressive. It's destructive. It's just overwhelming to the person. And it could be from different things. Holding back, high stress levels, suppressed emotions, unresolved trauma. And I'm not getting psychological here. I'm dealing with it on a higher level. But it's just something that triggers an explosion. I mean, and it could be verbal. I know there are times with my wife for 37 years, there are times when something's happened and I'll just blow up verbally at her. I feel horrible later, but I mean, it happens. Come on. I can tell you several times. There were times, and this may surprise you, some may not, if you've seen me in a mosh pit, but there were times early in our marriage if something, and it had nothing to do with our marriage, but if something happened, the lawnmower won't start. Well, I may get a sledgehammer. I ripped a screen door off the hinges one time. Things like that. And then I realized as I get older, and I'll talk about that in a second, Dave, you keep breaking stuff, you have to either fix it or pay to replace it. This is not doing good, but if you have a constant explosive anger, you may need to get some help. You may need to go to some anger management classes or learn some relaxation techniques or some impulse control if it's an ongoing thing. And, I'm making a little bit light of it here. If it's a serious detrimental problem, well, you need to do something about it. But that's one kind of anger. Another one, and this is probably more me, and you decide which one is you or whoever you're dealing with a lot. And I always like during these, think of somebody. When I say this, if it's not you, think of somebody. But I'm more of a quick temper guy. Certain things will trigger me, and they will irritate me. A lot of times it's just minor things. Somebody cutting in line, somebody hanging out in the passing lane, just hanging out. They're not passing. Bicyclers getting in the main lane, or little things like that will trigger me. Somebody thinking they're fooling me. That, just low tolerance on certain things. I'm saying, some people you can say, well, I'm quick tempered because my dad was. Well, find out what your dad was quick tempered about and quit blaming him for it. You've got to own it. And I don't believe in blaming other people. It ain't your mama's fault. You might have got it for her, but you need to overcome that. And so that's a lot. And I don't get mad often, but certain things you can count on it, and family knows it. Lines. Oh, waiting in a line. And that, it's irritating. I can, you handle it, and then something will happen and boom, there you go. It creates tension. My kids have learned to make fun of me, or just get away from it, or, whatever. But that quick temper, if you know what's going to trigger you, you can have some predetermined deterrence or practice some self-awareness there. And, prepare for it. Predict it. Another one would be like something long-term, a long-term anger, like a grudge or resentment. I've talked about that. Maybe even a regret that it just makes you furious that you did something or someone did something like that. It's that slow burn, lingering angst that you don't get over. It just festers. It's linked to past experiences or a person, or, maybe it's a betrayal of some sort, or just something that's unresolved that you just hold on to. That's horrible. I don't have that. If I thought back, I could think, that's the kind of thing some people would hold on. Now, somebody that feels like they've been wronged or victimized. That must be absolutely horrible. And it's not just angst or resentment. It gets worse, and it controls them to the point to where, they have dreams about it, or they wake up mad about it. And this can be from decades ago. It's I've had people say, "Hey, I don't forgive or forget." Hey, that's nothing to brag about. You can try to help them, but they won't. And I hope you don't have this. If you do, there's a lot of things you can do to help it. There are, but I don't think this is the podcast for it. I have some that I've talked to, and I can go back to it if you want it. Put it in hit me up, email me, let me know. But that long-term anger, don't have that. I don't. Then you've got, and that long-term anger can lead to the next kind, and that is a debilitating anger, meaning it's overwhelming. You can't function. You're in such emotional distress that it's giving you headaches, or it's manifesting itself physically, or it's caused high blood pressure, which leads to fatigue and all others. I mean, it is literally debilitating. Chronic stress, your mental health disorders, depression and anxiety can come from stuff like this, and it's just it affects every part of your life. And what it can do is, it can cost you your job, it can cost you friendships, it can cost you your health, and that kind of anger will destroy you. It will, and that is, hopefully, you don't have that. You need help. There's no other way about it. You definitely need to talk to somebody, but you may need medication. You may need something serious. So of these, I think the most common would be explosive anger and quick-tempered. Quick-tempered is forgivable, I believe, and that's because I think I've got it. Yeah, well, I'm self-diagnosed, of course. So when you look at this and when you manage it right, it's controllable. And so I think there are ways that anger and a temper can actually be productive. I really do. And so I'm not suggesting we do away with it. I think we should manage it. And anger management is not my forte. I'll tell you that right now. Makes me mad thinking about it. So let's just talk about how anger and a temper can be productive. We go back to those people in history. They accomplished a ton. Winston Churchill was one of them I didn't even mention. Notoriously angry. And look what he did on the world stage. Most of those people were accomplished. Just like we talked about impatience, greed, and control freaks. Usually they're successful. So how do we use this temper that we have, or use a temper for productive purposes? One thing is it can make you act. It can make you act on something. It can push you to take action, whether it's against injustice or unfair treatment, or toward your to-do list, or unmet goals, or failure, or the fear of failure. Anger can actually fuel determination. I remember there were people, my son's one of them, when he played, they made him play football in high school because I don't know where he got this from, but he's big and fast. I get the big part, but anyway, he would, they would just knock him around a little bit until he got mad. Once he got mad, he was going to do something about it. John Boston, my buddy, Igor, growing up, just the happiest go lucky guy in the world until you made him mad, and then look out. And by look out, I mean whether it's football or baseball or boxing or pulling a tree out of the ground, whatever it was. So anger can motivate action, and action reduces worry and stress. If you're worried about it, do something about it. Anger can help with that. Also, just general personal growth, it can help. When you analyze anger rather than suppress it, it can let you go to the sources. Where are these frustrations coming from? What am I mad about? Helping people address problems and challenges, it improves the situation. Again, it'll make you do something about it. But if you're angry, what am I actually angry about? And look at that. You get root cause, and then you can attack that. Also, communication, expressing frustration in a completely controlled way, that's one thing. But sometimes a little bit of edge to it, a little bit of temper, it lets people know that, look, I'm serious. This pisses me off. We need to do something about it. And it can lead to a sense of urgency. Now we're solving problems. And it can even be tender. Look, I love you. And I am sick of this. I'm sick of this fighting. We got to do something about it. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. That's anger. It's frustration, but it's in a caring way. And you can't do that so much at work. Look, I love you. You probably shouldn't do that. You'll be in HR, and then they'll be angry. But, just ways to get through it. Show passion behind something. I'm tired of these sales numbers being where they are. We're better than this. What are we going to do about it? I am not going to continue. That kind of thing. So it enhances communication. It enhances communication. Also, I talk about boundaries a lot. You got to establish boundaries. But also, sometimes a fence isn't enough. You need an electric fence. So you put a little temper when some limits are being crossed. That helps. To let you know, hey, here we go. You're getting close, buddy. You're on thin ice. Sometimes it takes that. People will push you. And that's when the electric fence of a temper can let them know, no. You don't understand. This is the boundary right here. None shall cross. So it's good in establishing boundaries. And then temper, there's no telling in the past how many times you can go back to when creativity or innovation was at an impasse until something triggered a temper. In business, just a breakthrough personally, something that made you break out of the norm, out of the status quo. Anger can spark that desire to find another solution, to quit doing the same thing over and over. So that temper can be a spark. I love that. Just that mental spark that made some change that needed to happen. The key to all of this in productive temper is channeling it constructively. Because when you let it spiral, when it becomes too explosive to the point to where there's collateral damage, when it becomes that long-term burden or debilitating, please, let's not let it get to that point. That passionate, quick temper, frustration that can be resolved. Okay, that can be a productive anger. The other side, and I think we know these, but as we go through them, let's think about, are you here? Do you have a friend that's here? Do you have a family member that's here? And if you understand, it could be you. Either way, understand the depths of this, and then we can talk about what we can do about it. But when a temper, I'll say a temper, not your temper, when a temper is damaging relationships, that explosive anger that hurts people, it hurts other people, it hurts that person professionally, socially, and it just makes it hard to communicate with them or trust them because of their anger issues. And that's tough. I've been there, and sometimes you just have to deselect. Also, when people they get angry or their temper flares and they make rash decisions, just out of anger. They're very impulsive. Quit a job. Screw them. And you quit a job. And then you go somewhere else and you're taking your anger with you, and you found out, that job wasn't so bad. In the getting to a good place process, we go through that. And that's why I keep tissues around, because people, it hits close to home. They quit a good job when it wasn't the job. They ended a marriage or a relationship when that's not what it was. And they can't get that back. Financial decisions. Screw it. Let's just leave the house. We'll turn the house back over to the bank. Or, I got quick tempered at a T-Mobile store one time, and yeah, with my daughter, and I wasn't my finest moment. I was close to a restraining order. Actually, it was a Sprint store, and I couldn't go back there until T-Mobile bought them out. And I guess my record got expunged, and I went back in there. But I was very quick-tempered that day and made rash decisions. Wasn't life-threatening, but anyway, you have those people. I'm making light of it, but they make serious decisions in the heat of anger. Whew. Okay, another one would be when the conflict is escalating. I have seen people come to the table and get close to resolution, and one side would lose their temper, and the intensity started growing, and it destroyed a situation. I've seen that professionally several times. And I'm not talking here. I've seen it alcohol fueled several times too, but I'm not talking about when substances are coming in. That's a whole different conversation. But I have seen situations almost resolved, and then something small triggered anger in one side, and it destroyed it. And so, when conflict gets escalated, you're already on shaky terms, and then it gets explosive. That's not good. Another thing is how it harms your reputation. Yeah, hopefully I haven't done a lot of these, but I know some people, they have committed career suicide. You get cast in you get a reputation. I mean, there are certain people, I remember in the garage days, people would come in and you kept an eye on them because certain things would trigger them. And, you learn this about other people. You don't talk politics. You don't talk religion. You don't talk, you need to know a little bit about people to the point where you stay away certain things. And you'll have good people that come get in your ear. My daughter around certain people, and this is not anger issues, but certain people are having challenges. So, hey, don't mention this around them. They're having, you learn that. Also, other people, you don't talk music around this guy, because he'll turn it into a competition, and eventually it's a member measuring contest, and if he loses, he gets angry. Let's not even play that game. Stuff like that. But people get a reputation for that, and once you do, it can affect your career, definitely affects your social standing, and hey, it affects your circle. And people just don't like to be around hotheads all the time. So that's another situation you need to be aware of in yourself or with your friends. And then the other one is when it's impacting your health or a friend's health. Chronic anger. And I think you probably know somebody. I can think of 2 or 3 people in the course of my life, and not just, I've been all over the country, and you can see it. And, a lot of my interaction with people is for an hour at a time. Well, repeat visits, you see certain things, but I'm talking about people you're around a lot. Could be family members. You could be, lifelong friends. Unchecked chronic anger can lead to long-term health problems, physical health problems, but also that isolation. That is not good for you mentally and can lead to so many more horrible things. You've got somebody that's chronically angry and they're isolated. That can lead to substance abuse. It could lead to self-harm. It can lead to all sorts of things. The serial killers, what do they say? Well, they were kind of a loner, kept to themselves. You didn't hear much. Yeah. Well, they definitely have anger issues. And not, I don't want you to go out here thinking, I got to talk to Johnny. He's going to be a serial killer. That's not what I'm saying, and you know that. But the key is recognizing it. There's helpful anger, and there's help for anger, right? Really, the temper I'm talking about is I realize it, but also now when I get angry, it's like, man, I'm pissed. What caused? Why am I so mad? You know? And as we age, our temperament, it evolves too. Hopefully it evolves. I mean, life experiences helps. You know, I think our biological clock ticking helps, and our priorities shift. Things aren't as important. I still get to the point where I want to, grab somebody and punch them every now and then. I think that's good. It's like, oh, Dave, you can't do that. What's wrong with you? But as we get older, things change. We're more emotionally stable, for one thing. Uh, you know, it, Moods are one thing. I'm still pretty moody at times. I can be. I saw a thing the other day about King Solomon, and I don't know if it's true or not, but King Solomon loved rings, and one of his guys, he said, "I need you to go find me a ring." He loved to show them off, and he said, "I want you to find me a ring that, looking at it, if I'm sad, it will make me happy. And if I'm happy, it will make me sad." So his dude went out. I don't think he called him a dude, but he went out and, he said, "I want it before some festival was coming up." And so the guy went out, looked everywhere, couldn't find it. Oh, he's just searched the whole kingdom. And he comes back during the festival, and he was holding it up. He said, "I have the ring. I have the ring." And King Solomon was happy, and he looked at it, and he all of a sudden got somber, and he was sad. And what the ring was, on the ring, it was one of King Solomon's sayings. It said, "This too shall pass." Which means if you're happy, okay, that too shall pass. And if you're sad, okay, this will. Clever little ditty. I don't know how true it is, but I heard it, and I thought, okay, as we get older, we realize that. With wisdom, we understand. Well, I get so mad about this. Really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big a deal. We are able to handle our emotions better. I'm 60. I'm still quick-tempered sometimes about certain things. Yeah, ask the girl that was waiting on us at the sushi restaurant in Solana Beach. Took my wife and daughter in. I go to the restroom. As I'm coming back, she's making fun of their southern accents. The claws came out. I told them to get in the car. And then I went back in there. Anyway, it's quick temper. That's justified, by the way. So, as we get older, though, we're more emotionally stable, hopefully. In greater perspective, as I said, in the broader perspective and in the grand scheme of things, is this that important? You're more patient. You realize this too shall pass. Problems are temporary, not worth the emotional turmoil. It's not worth punching this guy because he's going to sue me and my hand's going to hurt. It's going to cost me more. Just, not that big of a thing. And, you don't need, I think the older you get, you're not trying to seek approval as much. So those things that triggered a man, for instance, it's not as critical when you get older. And as a woman, you're the same way. You're more secure in where you are, and that's okay. I understand. I get it. So less social anxiety or need for approval. And then I think you have a stronger sense of contentment. Hopefully you've accomplished a lot you needed to. Hopefully you have another list to go. But you have some contentment. And it's in so many surveys. Older people, or as you get older, your happiness increases and you're more grateful. You look at what you've got. Gratitude is huge. I'm going to start a gratitude video that's going to be, I'm going to try to do it at least weekly. It's great. My daughter and I have been doing it for a long time. Three positive things that happened this week, or 3 things you're excited about. We do it every Friday. I'm going to start doing videos on that because gratitude is so important. And I think it can help with that overall more serious temper or anger issues. It makes you focus more on meaningful things and less on emotional or material stuff. And then as we get older, that hopefully the resistance to change increases. You're more adaptable. You're more content, so that helps too. But familiarity with the routine is comforting, and that resistance to change as you get older can be tougher. I embrace it, but some people it can get tougher. So if you get in that routine and stick to it when you're older and it's narrow, well, there's less that's going to cause problems. And that's why you see older people, dude, we eat at this time, we go do this. I have a doctor appointment Tuesday, so that's what I'm doing Tuesday. But that they have a resistance to change, so they have to change less. Their life is not as crazy. They work, they especially after retirement. Now I'm talking, you don't have the day-to-day rat race that you're getting into. So for the rest of us, for us young bucks out there, I think it's always important to control your temper. A temper is not always bad, but you need to be able to control it for relationships, for making decisions, just for your overall mental well-being, So you're not that crazy old guy screaming, "Get off of my lawn!" But anyway, I look back in times when I did have, I don't think I ever had anger issues. Of course, that's what people with anger issues say. There's just a few things to help control your temper. Temper. That's what my mom used to say. Temper. That's her way of saying, don't make me get mad. First thing, and it's so critical in so many things. How many times have I said this? Pause. Just pause. When you can feel it, and you'll feel it. Sometimes a quick temper, you just explode. Just pause. When you can feel that anger rising, just pause. Take a couple of breaths. Count to 10 if you need to. If you can't count to 10, count to 5. If you can't count to 5, count to 3 before you respond. That small delay can help. That impulsive stuff is not what you want. We're not playing whack-a-mole here. Just pause. And then it's so important to understand your triggers and your patterns. What makes you, what sets you off? You can help prepare for those situations more calmly. It's just like, oh, Jesus. Yeah, Fred Sanford would go, "Elizabeth, I'm coming." He would, do whatever. One thing, and I did this not long ago, I started keeping track of what upset me. What is it? What's triggering me? What's going on? And I did that under the situational impatience. What am I so impatient about? And it was cool because it was predictable, but I'm thinking, you know what? All right. And it's also cool that it doesn't bother me anymore. Well, the same thing. Identify the patterns and the triggers. They're going to set you off. Then maybe you can avoid those or learn to deal with them. Look, the family wants to go do this. We're going to have to stand in line. The family wants to go to that restaurant. I love that restaurant. In order to do that, I'm going to have to stand in line. I'm going to have to travel. Well, I'm going to have some traffic people that may include some bicyclers dressed up in their leotards. Okay. It's part of it. If it's not worth dealing with that and not losing my temper and ruining the evening, all right, then handle it. Okay. So, pause, understand triggers and patterns, and then sometimes you just got to have an outlet. You got to have an outlet. All right, let's go. It could be physical activity. Could we go for a walk? Go for a walk. Go sit out by a lake and drink a cup of coffee. Read something. Write a song. Draw a picture. My son and I, we go to extreme music shows and, get a little contact going, whatever. My wife has started kickboxing, which almost scares me a little. But that's her outlet. I was in a Waffle House in Louisville a couple of weeks ago. And this lady, I order, and they bring my food. This sweet lady. I don't know how old she was. Probably, I don't know, 40s. I'm not good at guessing that. I don't work at the fair. But she came in, and I said, "Can I get a setup?" She didn't give me a fork. And she went, "Oh, I'm sorry, honey. I just left. There was a Cracker Barrel right next door." She said, "I work at the Cracker Barrel before I come here, and they already have the stuff on the table." I'm sorry. I'm like, "Oh, it's no problem. I just, I'll eat this waffle with my hands." And I heard her, so I said, "You worked a full shift there in here?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "I clean houses in the morning, and then I work there, and then I come at Waffle House because it's open 24 hours, which is, that's fantastic about the Waffle House." So she's working 3 jobs, and she had a great personality. And then I heard her say, "I got to get off. I got to go to kickboxing before I go I got to go to kickboxing before I go clean those houses tomorrow to work off my stress." Thinking, what a piece of crap I am. It was 1 o'clock in the morning when I was there. She was on her 3rd job of the day and getting off and going to kickboxing to work off her stress. What? But that's a healthy outlet. My goodness, if I worked 3 jobs, you wouldn't want to be around me. Imagine triggering me after getting off of my 3rd job. But she found that physical activity. She kickboxes. I love it. I think it's fantastic. So find some sort of outlet for it. It'll calm you down. Or maybe you need to go punch something for a little while. You don't need to punch your neighbor. So find a healthy outlet. Also, communication is the answer to everything. I think we established that, which is easier said than done. I have a temper around talking about communication, by the way, because it's tough. So, but instead of reacting emotionally, express this. And there's certain people that can't talk without saying I, me, or my. It's all about them. Their whole world, it's about them. That's enough about me. What do you think about me? Those kind of people. However, when you're looking at improving your communication skills around temper, instead of just blaming somebody and pointing your finger, use I statements. Like instead of "You're pissing me off," or "You make me mad," or that, it's like, I get frustrated when, I feel threatened when, I feel scared when you do this. That it makes your point without threatening somebody else. You're stating something on your behalf. That kind of thing. And that helps. That can disarm, especially if your temper is escalating in a one-on-one conflict or with a group. It's like, I need to take a second. I'm getting frustrated with the direction of this conversation. I feel like we're unorganized and we've got 5 people talking at the same time. And I feel like this is counterproductive. It's not, you people won't shut up long enough to get anything done. All you're doing is blah, blah, blah. And Tom, you need to, come on. Loretta, everybody needs a bagel. You don't need to do that. Just make some I statements to de-escalate. And what you're doing, you're de-escalating yourself. You don't want to be like in Sling Blade with Dwight Yoakam's apology, where he ends up screaming at everybody. Anyway. So improve those communication skills by using I statements. And also, if you can have, and this is a little bit in my bailiwick, a long-term stress management philosophy, that will help with your temper. It's helped with mine a ton. I still get quick-tempered, but I don't hold on to anything. And that can be, breathing is very important, but also spending time. Gratitude is a big thing. Have a schedule. Have a to-do list. Plan your day. Plan your week. And put in, I say put in buffers so that when stuff bumps up against each other, it doesn't trigger anything. And it builds confidence. You'll accomplish more. You'll be more confident. You'll be more successful. Fewer people will question you. And when they do, you have an answer. That checks a lot of boxes along what triggers tempers in men. Same thing with women. Being okay with yourself and grateful with what you've got. When you face adversity, you're able to handle it better or more mature or with less temper. So having that, it doesn't, that's why I think when we get older, we're better at it. I know some older people who just fly off the handle for everything because they're not used to anything interrupting. I get that. However, when we start our day right and we have realistic expectations, then we're less thrown off when something doesn't go right. So that a long-term stress management plan sounds corporate. No, I need to calm down. I know I need to get a good night's sleep. When I get up, I need my coffee. All right. At that point, I can do this. I know I have this due tomorrow. It's not going to be a surprise. I know traffic may be bad. I know this could happen. All right. I'm prepared. Still, things are going to happen, but we're going to be better able to handle them. So I don't know your situation. Temper may not even occur to you as a problem, or it may all of a sudden be a problem. I'm confident you deal with people where it is a problem. So whether it's you or someone else or something new comes along, don't beat yourself up over having a temper. Temper can be productive, but don't let it get in the way of your success, your happiness, or your relationships. That's just it in a nutshell. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it so much. Hit me up at dave@otalks.com or david@otalks.com, or just go to otalks.com and follow. A lot more coming up on YouTube. I'm about to post a ton of videos. I think I've got 150 or something. I've gotten relaxed, remiss in my posting, so I'm going to catch up with that. I got some time coming up. I appreciate everything you're doing. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the feedback. Some of your requests are around a mailbag. So many questions I need to answer, so I'm going to do another one of those to answer a litany of questions, and I appreciate your curiosity. But most of all, I appreciate you O-Talking with Dave. Giddy up.